Well, today, Japan's Nikkei 225 was down 0.8% off the worst levels of the trading day, however. In Shanghai, the composite, the biggest loser today, down 2.6%. The market, though, did recover some ground after being down more than 5% at one point after China Construction Bank denied rumors that it is looking to raise more capital. Let's get more now in China and Japan with Darius Kowalczyk. He's Chief Investment Strategist at SJS Markets. Derek, thanks for joining us today on Worldwide Exchange. Let's talk about China first of all.
My pleasure.
How much of today's falls were based on Mr. Wen's comments yesterday?
I think the comments from the Prime Minister, which were very cautious on growth outlook, played an important role, as did remarks by China Construction Bank chairman about a bubble in asset prices. But you also have to remember that a lot of companies reported earnings yesterday, and they disappointed by a margin of over 50 percentage points. So a huge disappointment here. All this conspired to give us the huge intraday slump. But I believe that current valuations are attractive, and Shanghai markets should be much higher by the end of the year.
Now, overall, we didn't see much of a bounce coming from news that Mr. Ben Bernanke is reappointed or will be reappointed as the Fed chief in the United States. But to what extent is Asia very dependent upon monetary policy in the United States being rather consistent right now?
I think our region is very dependent on a consistent stimulative policy from the Fed, because on one hand it would guarantee a recovery in demand from the US for Asian products, something really important for an export-dependent region, and on the other hand it would sustain the favorable liquidity conditions that are attracting risk capital to our region and boosting equities as well as some currency markets. So I believe that in the medium term, reappointment of Bernanke is a very favorable news for Asia.
Darius, this is Mike Huckman in the States, where the government's Cash for Clunkers program basically came to an end last night, although the dealers do have until later today to file all of that paperwork that they have to do. But all reports say that the Cash for Clunkers program benefited foreign car makers, and to be more specific, the Asian car makers, more than any other automakers, and especially those here in the States. So to what extent do you think that the end of that program is going to impact things in Asia?
It is negative in the very short run, but everybody knew that the program will not continue for a very long time. You are right that in July, the year-on-year growth rate for imported vehicles was much stronger than for domestic ones, and Asian car makers, including exporters, have benefited from that. But I think that the end of the program is already discounted in prices of their shares here in Asia, and this was basically a blip on the radar screen, the same way it was for the overall retail sales in the US, which basically were shifted away from non-vehicle consumption to vehicle consumption and declined anyway. So the program overall wouldn't have a big impact either on the US economy or on global markets.
Darius, it's Becky in London here. Can you share with us some of your thoughts on strategy at the moment? How can investors best make the most, particularly of the Chinese markets, to get in at this stage?
I believe that valuations in China at levels close to 2,900 for Shanghai Composite Index are quite attractive because of the very solid long-term growth potential for the country, and because of the fact that I think lending growth will be stronger for the rest of the second half of this year than it was for July. So the scare that liquidity will be withdrawn will not weigh on the index as much as it did over the past 2 weeks, and therefore I think it's a good time to still get into the market, and that the positive mood that should prevail in Shanghai in the second half of the year is likely to benefit indices in neighboring countries as well, on top of the positive impact that Japan is going to see from the transfer of power from LPD to DPJ.
Derek, thanks so much for joining us today. Derek Kowalczyk, Chief Investment Strategist
My pleasure.
at SJS Markets, joining us there. Now let's check on the Indian markets for you and tell you how they're doing.